Today, you and I are going to explore whether having a 15,000 square feet home is a burden or it's freedom. We touched upon the fundamentals of change in the last episode. Every aspect of our life is impacted by change. Some people, that's every area, and some, it's not. But that's okay, because to understand something, you need to see multiple sides of the same scenario. So let's dive in and let's figure out whether you see a 15,000 square feet home as freedom or a burden. To kickstart this, we did look at the modern day 500 square feet living space that has been allocated as the ideal living conditions for modern day humans in large cities. Except when you think about ventilation and home furniture, appliances, storage space, that 500 square feet space from wall to wall, ceiling to floor gets shrunk a bit, which also impacts air quality, sound quality, the aesthetic feel, and your mental health. Now let's look at the other extreme. Imagine taking that 500 square foot apartment and multiplying it by 30. That's roughly 15,000 square feet of living space. To help visualize that scale, we're no longer talking about apartments. We're talking about the kind of enclosed space that could be associated with the habitat of a large animal, such as an elephant, mostly in a managed environment. Because at 15,000 square feet, we're not really comparing homes to apartments anymore. We're getting into the realm of spaces large enough that we might start comparing them to the enclosed habitats used for some of the world's largest land animals. Maybe you've seen them at the zoo. All that space sounds wonderful. You can have gardens, different rooms for different things. You can have a massive kitchen that can feed 100 people and entertainment space. Now let's explore. When you first enter someone's home, where do you usually look? Most people don't consciously decide. Their eyes tend to scan for the size of the space, or maybe the amount of natural light that comes in. They also look at the layout and the flow. Some people check out the furniture and the decor, and we all know this. Everyone apologizes for, I'm sorry for the mess, but everyone does look for signs of cleanliness and clutter, especially if they keep their place tidy and organized. Most people also check out the windows. Are there windows? How many are there? What do you see outside? Is it a wall that completely blocks you off from the rest of the sky? Or is it beautiful nature like you see behind me? Other people look around to see who else is there when they visit, and also the activities that are set up in the different rooms, if they're allowed to enter. What's interesting is that most people form an impression within seconds. That's the same amount of time to take a few breaths. And within those breaths, they also assess the air quality in the home. Does it smell nice or the complete opposite? Some people walk in and immediately notice, wow, this place is huge. They can even hear themselves echo. While others will notice that this feels cozy. Blankets, furniture, rugs, warm aesthetics. Because when someone enters a 15,000 square foot home, they usually don't start by thinking about the heating bill, the roof maintenance, the cleaning, the property taxes, the landscaping, or the repairs. They see, touch, breathe, and feel the experience first. The burden, if there is one, tends to reveal itself later. So let's explore the dynamic of entering the space. What do we notice first, and what remains invisible? What's interesting about all of this while we're exploring this topic is that humans tend to evaluate environments through sensory experiences first and operational reality second. Just think about how you interact with the world around you and the people in it. You'll notice it's true of homes, jobs, relationships, cities, towns, villages, relationships. It's true of cities. It's true of technologies. It's true of almost everything. Because we all experience it first through our senses, and then we maintain it later. Most people don't realize how much information they're processing in the first few seconds. Imagine entering that amount of space. You're on the inside, walking through the beautiful front doors. You notice light, color, ceiling height. Everyone boasts about high ceiling heights and the beautiful chandeliers that hang from them. Distance, smells, sounds, temperature. Sometimes it can be chilly. Airflow, movement, and people. And another thing that you'll notice is how the energy feels in the space. Spaces that have been historically preserved, that were built hundreds of years ago, if you notice, sometimes they keep the energy of what was occurring in that space, who lived in it, what they did there, whether that was tragedy or whether that was joy, or a mix of both, because the aura of that space is kept in the walls, on the ground, and the whole ambience of the experience. This is why you can tend to feel if a large space feels haunted or safe in any weather. Rain, storm, sunshine, a windy day, or even just a calm, pleasant, birds chirping all around night. And then after you determine all of that sensory experience, you think about whether you like the space or not. If you like it, you definitely purchased it. If something feels off, you'll notice it right away. So let's continue being the visitor to this space. As a visitor, you'll notice the beautiful windows. Some open, some don't. You'll notice the size of the furniture, the placement, the design, how many seating areas there are. You'll also notice the view, whether it be from the front door or all the way to the back. And the one thing that your mind will keep thinking about is, wow, this is a lot of space. But what you don't see is the operational reality of someone who owns that space. They think about the mortgage or the maintenance schedule. It's full-time operation because you need to have cleaning hours and a cleaning schedule. You're also thinking about repairs from maybe 5 years ago. Oh, and no one ever mentions the arguments about renovations, budget, season, permits, contractors, materials, delays, logistics. If your kitchen is being renovated, you're not cooking in there. Maybe you're eating out most of the time, or there's kind friends or family that say, please come over, we can feed you. Because the effort required to sustain it is a full-time job. So let's take this deeper into the experienced reality and the operational reality, which is also something that is fundamental to systems thinking. Don't believe me? Well, let's look at a few different things from the systems lens, because every system has 2 layers. For example, in this 15,000 square foot home, a visitor experiences a beautiful garden, but the gardener experiences watering schedules, soil conditions, pests, pruning, seasons, and replacing dead plants and picking up dead animals. If you've ever been to a restaurant, as a guest, you experience the meal, the ambience, the atmosphere, and the company you take there Unless you've gone by yourself, then you just enjoy the ambience. But the restaurant owner experiences inventory, staffing, food spoilage, permits, payroll, maintenance, suppliers, and cash flows. This is why when you show up and order your favorite dish, maybe the ingredient might be out. Or someone will see a beautiful body, but the person living in that body experiences sleep, nutrition, exercise, injuries, recovery, aging, stress, and hormones. When someone watches a podcast episode, or even you watching me here on YouTube, the creator experiences research, recording, editing, equipment, publishing, thumbnails, hosting, captions, and troubleshooting. But they also experience a range of emotions, which can feel like shyness or anxiety or peace and calm. Now, when we switch back to the 15,000 square foot home, you realize that at some point you run into the physical limits of being human. Imagine you have 24 hours in a day, which means if you work full time, you can only sit in one room at a time. You can only sleep in one bed at a time. You can only eat so much food. And you can only look out from one window or a few windows at a time. You can only occupy one chair at a time or a couple seating positions. You can only shower in one bathroom at a time. Unless there's a pool, you may have another. Meanwhile, the house keeps existing. The house doesn't care that you're tired, overworked, stressed. The floors still need cleaning. Dust has no vacation time. And if you have pets, hair shedding is a 24-hour cycle. The windows will still need washing, both inside and outside, because when it's not cleaned, it can tend to be a little bit blurry and you'll think something's wrong with your eyes, but often it's the window. The roof that protects everything in your home still ages from rain, snow, sunshine, wind, birds, and maybe some raccoons find themselves up there if there's pigeons living, especially under solar panels. The pipes that flow all the water through still ages. The landscaping still grows. The leaves still fall. The snow still arrives. And the mess, whatever they may be, still needs to be cleaned up. Because the system still keeps running, whether you participate or not. And it's quite fascinating because humans often confuse ownership with control. Think about it. Owning something doesn't mean you've conquered the operational reality. Sometimes you inherit a reality you didn't know could exist. So in this house, imagine you have 12 bathrooms. 12. That's plumbing, cleaning, some for bugs to start exploring if no one ever goes in there, decor, maintenance, lighting, mirrors, more surfaces. That may seem like more freedom until you link them to the relationship with time, energy, attention, maintenance, and resources. And let's talk about the rooms. In a 15,000 square foot home, you can expect to find, let's think about it. If I'm standing in a 15,000 square foot home and I'm looking at it from a systems perspective, I'd expect to find things like multiple living rooms for formal events and informal social activities. I'd also expect to find a large primary suite, maybe with a balcony. There'll also be several guest bedrooms, multiple bathrooms, which we touched upon, beautiful dining furniture that maybe gets used once or twice a year. Definitely a home office, maybe several offices, a library or a reading room, or maybe a sitting room, a gym, definitely a gym. I'd also expect to find a media room or a theater. Maybe someone wants to watch a movie at 3 a.m. in the morning and the theater is closed. In this amount of space, you should expect to find multiple storage areas and rooms, utility rooms, laundry rooms, walk-in closets, perhaps the size of the entire living space of that 500 square foot home. There might also be a wine cellar or a workshop, an outdoor kitchen. A pool and pool equipment must be stored in a room, multiple garages, mechanical rooms, and hallways. Lots of hallways connecting everything together. And that's not even talking about the decor, or the furniture, or the appliances, or the lighting, or the entire electrical grid that powers this house. But ask yourself, how many of those rooms are being used at once? Or even every month? Because a room doesn't stop existing when you're not in it. Imagine walking through this giant house. You enter the library, but nobody's there. You enter the theater, but nobody's there. You enter the guest room. Nobody's there either. You enter the second guest room. Still, nobody there. You enter the formal dining room, but nobody's there. You enter the sitting room, and still nobody's there, because the rooms are all waiting to be used. They're all waiting to justify their existence. And their existence requires a lot of commitment. Flooring, walls, paint, lighting, heating, cooling, furniture, dust, cleaning, maintenance. We keep touching upon cleaning and maintenance because even an empty room is not truly empty. An empty room is a maintenance room. If more of everything is allocated to maintenance, then at what point does a house stop being a home and start becoming a facility? Because there's a difference between this is where I live and this is a physical system that requires ongoing management. And one more thing you'll notice is hallways, which is something that is found in very large homes. You'll notice an astonishing amount of square footage is devoted to moving between places. If you live in a climate that freezes over for half of the year, it generally means that your pool can only be used if it's outdoors for about 2 to 3 months, unless it's covered and heated. Then you can enjoy that throughout the year. And the same lens can be used throughout the house. If you don't have guests over every month, then you'll start to wonder how many nights per year are guests actually sleeping in them. And the beautiful dining rooms. Maybe you'll ask, how many meals are being eaten in here and how often? When you start exploring the relationship between capacity, utilization, maintenance, and human time, you notice that the entire house becomes a calendar. The roof has a schedule. The garden has a schedule. The heating, ventilation, and cooling system has a schedule. And in this type of home, you won't just find one system for heating and cooling. You need multiple. The windows schedule, the pool schedule, the trees, the garden, the beautiful landscaping schedule. The driveway also has a schedule. The house is quietly generating tasks all year long, which tends to lead to a funny question. Who works for whom? Even heated driveways. The perfect home for rats. And don't get me wrong, these homes are absolutely beautiful. In fact, if we compare the size of these homes from historic times to modern day times, we can notice some differences in how these were structured. The one thing common in both of the designs is hallways. Hallways. Think about that. The primary purpose is movement of people, things, sometimes animals. Nobody says, look at this magnificent corridor, unless there's beautiful artwork hung upon it. You can find in older estates, maybe castles or manor houses and other large residences. Historically, most were designed around servants, deliveries, storage, food preparation, heating, and movement through building. The circulation system mattered. In modern day large homes, they have different priorities: entertainment, privacy, aesthetics, specialized rooms, and personal comfort. When we look at this topic of whether a 15,000 square foot home can be considered freedom or a luxury, we need to ask questions like freedom from what? Is it lack of space? Is it noise? Is it other people? Is it storage constraints? Or is it hosting limitations? We also need to ask, what are the burdens? Is it maintenance, cost, time, attention, or complexity? One thing I find amusing is that the same feature can appear on both sides. Take a guest room. It provides freedom because you can host friends and family. But if they don't come over often, then you're handling the burden of maintaining a room that may sit empty most of the year. And what about the pool? It's complete freedom when available to use, because you can swim whenever you want. If you're not tired, that is. But there's also the management of keeping that water clean and safe, because you'll need things like cleaning, chemicals, repairs, or seasonal maintenance, or staff to take care of it. When looking at the garden, you'll see it's beautiful, maybe full of nature and food. But then there's the burden of watering, pruning, pest control, and weed control. Many of these homes have beautiful kitchens that are not often used. It provides the operational space for meals to be prepared and catered for multiple guests, maybe up to 100. But the burden is cleaning after cooking for all of these people and also coordinating the entire event. But maybe there's staff for that. So I hope this exploration has shown you that every freedom creates a corresponding responsibility, or in systems terms, every increase in capacity creates an increase in operational requirements. In systems thinking, the question is always, what are you optimizing for? Because for one person, the garden is the whole reason they bought the property. Or for another person, maintaining that garden is a huge burden. For another person, maybe having 12 bathrooms sounds ridiculous. But for another person, hosting large family gatherings makes them useful. So the answer isn't large homes are freedom or large homes are a burden. This example can show us that freedom and burden arrive together. And the question is whether the freedom you gain is worth the responsibility you inherit. Think about it. Even if you travel, you're still thinking about the safety and security of that size of home, no matter where you are in the world. And while you're in it, you're thinking about your own safety. And the fun? Well, that depends on what you consider to be fun. For example, the pool. If you see a pool as something to only enjoy for leisure, then to someone who sees a pool as somewhere to exercise, the entire setup would be perfect. And I'll tell you why. A pool has multi-purpose use. It's not a room, it's an experience. And it's the perfect example to end this topic. Someone may see luxury, another person exercise. Someone who's injured may see rehabilitation, while another sees maintenance, and someone else sees a place where their grandchildren can play. Not many people know how to swim, but for those who do, swimming can provide a lot of health benefits, such as low impact on the joints because the water supports the body. The resistance of the water means you're working muscles throughout the entire body. Swimming can improve cardiovascular fitness. Many people find it relaxing because of the rhythmic breathing. Swimming can also be useful during recovery from certain injuries when higher impact activities aren't appropriate. It can also help with things like mobility and flexibility because you're moving through a larger range of motion. And if the pool isn't used every day, then is it a luxury? If the pool is the primary place someone exercises, is it luxury? Or if someone needs it to recover from exercise, or if someone needs it for rehabilitation while recovering from injury, is it a luxury? If a family is able to spend an entire weekend hanging out at their pool, is it luxury? Maybe these are some questions you can think about, because oftentimes the value of a thing depends on how it is used. A room used every day feels different than a room used once a year, and a pool used every day often feels different than one that is used twice a year. A garden that feeds a family feels different from one that is purely decorative. So as you go about your day, you can start to think about how you define freedom or utility or burden and what you consider as having value so you can enjoy something every day. Every system produces outputs, and so we will end today's video. See you next time.